Good day, everyone. I am Joy Marie De Jesus from BPED 4E. Human flourishing. So according to Aristotle, there is an end of all the actions that we perform which we desire for itself. Actually, this is quite true. And even if it is not said by Aristotle, when we come to the time or to the that we need to call in which the time we will all die, all of the things that we want to do, actions, our ambitions, dreams, and everything that we want in life, thinking and even breathing will come to its end. And this is known as eudaimonia, flourishing or happiness, which is desired for its own sake with all the other things being desired on his account. Eudaimonia, on the other hand, is a Greek word literally translating or means to the state or condition of good spirit, and which is commonly translated as happiness or welfare. Eudaimonia is the ultimate goal of a human being and a part of his or her function as a person. The virtues are therefore human needs that benefit their possessor. And an example is ascribing eudaimonia to a person then may include ascribing such things as being virtuous, being loved, and having good friends. But these are all objective judgments about someone's life. They concern whether a person is really virtuous or really being loved and really having fine friends. Flourishing is the highest good of human endeavor and that toward which all actions aim. It is success as a human being, and the best life is one of excellent human activity. So flourishing is when people experience positive emotions, positive psychological functioning, and positive social functioning most of the time. So living with an optimal range of human functioning, flourishing is the descriptor and measure of positive mental health and overall life well-being. So a person's nature as a human being provides him with the guidance and also with the respect on how he should live his life. The natural role or nature of a person has an accompanying guide on how he will live what he does as a person, and also how he will respect others living also in this world. Thinking about how he can recognize his life and apply what he learns while he lives is associated with human life. One's own life is the only life that a person has to live. Just like what I have said earlier, once we died, everything will fall into its own place. As we humans, we are not like a cat that people believe to have 9 lives, that whatever the cat does, whether he jumps from a high position without being injured, humans have only one life to live and to fight for. The good life. Are we living a good life? Are you living a good life? This question is inarguably a first human concern. Everyone aims to have a good life, yet what constitutes a happy and contented life varies from person to person. Unique background, experiences, social contexts, and even preferences makes it difficult to subscribe to a unified standard on which to tease out the meaning of the good life. Everyone knows that not all of us are experiencing or having a good and comfortable life. Everyone wants to have a good life. Everyone dreams of having a good life, to live a good life. But the real challenge is how people will face the real world of having imperfect experiences, having heartbreaks. Simple but deep words that makes it difficult for the people to conquer and fight to have a good life.
My name is Eliza M. De Los Santos from BPED 4E.
So now, let's discuss the Aristotle-Nicomachean Ethics.
Aristotle was an ancient Greek philosopher, together with his teacher Plato, the most influential thinker in the history of Western civilization. He studied under Plato in his academic life for 2 decades. between the age of 17 and 37, after which he left Athens to tutor Alexander the Great. Even though he was Plato's best student, after Plato's death, Aristotle shifted from Plato's idealistic teaching to empiricism. The Nicomachean Ethics is Aristotle's best-known work on ethics and quite possibly the most influential book on the subject ever written. It consists of 10 books, all of them originally written as separate scrolls. The Nicomachean parts of the title refer to Aristotle's son Nicomachus, to whom quite probably the work was dedicated. It also possible that he was the one who edited it. Some scholars, however, claim that the Nicomachus this work is dedicated to is actually Aristotle's father, who was also called Nicomachus. Be that as if may, Nicomachean Ethics deals with a problem both Plato and Socrates were interested in, namely, how should men live their lives in the best possible manner? That's why Nicomachean Ethics not only explain what is good and why it is a good, but also give advice as to how one should live too. Consider his living here on earth God, respectable, and virtuous. Book 1 of Nicomachean Ethics is broken in the 13th section. Section 1. To kick off his discussions about happiness, Aristotle begins by asserting every craft, line of inquiry, and every action seek some good. In the same way, every craft, activities, and action seeks an ultimate end or goal. Pursuing the higher end is better, but pursuing actions support the higher goal is also good. Section 2. What the good end, outcome are for individuals who seek the best good in their specific area of interest will logically also be the good ends that are the best goods for a city or community at the large. Therefore, Aristotle considered political science the highest ruling science, since every other science or area of study is subordinate to it, because it's cover all the others within it. In Section 3, Aristotle explained how individuals who are expert in their area of interest are good judge in the persons educated in the area, but the unqualified good judge is the persons educated in every area that is older and more experienced. People and they should usually study political science. Young people are driven by emotions, while other people have likely learned to accord with reasons informing their desire, but his guidelines can't apply to every imaginable circumstances. Crave with Immanuel Kant will later take issues in their critique of pure reason. Section 4. Most people vote the money and the cultivate everyday uneducated people and wise people with expertise agree that the greatest good is happiness. However, they do not agree on the definitions of happiness. For some, it is a pleasure and wealth. For others, it is whatever they lack. For the readers to have common ground, they need to have a similar understanding of basic principle. A principle is a fundamental belief providing a foundation for further discovery. Section 5. Aristotle lists 3 different concepts of the happy lives, lives of gratifications, political activities, or study. Average or vulgar people find happiness in gratifications. More educated and politically active people find happiness in honor. Since honor is the point of political life, nevertheless, honor is to depend on others' opinions to be the true good. Section 6. So what is the universal good? Aristotle acknowledged he is disagreeing with his friends Plato and other scholars of Plato by dismissing Plato's theory of ideal form. The true goods, according to Aristotle, is more complicated. It needs to apply to real situations in life, to different virtue and in different amount. Section 7. Aristotle explained how the good he's searching for must be the most complete good seems to be happiness. Happiness is self-sufficient, meaning a person does not seek happiness to try to accomplish something else to determine the highest goods for human being. Aristotle say he needs to discuss the human functions and conclusions that it is the activities of souls in accord with reason somehow perform these functions well in accord with virtue has achieved the highest human good. The good is the human telos, the one key to happiness. 8. Section 8 divided good into three types: external goods, goods for the soul and good for the body. There are some truths that are not despicable, and the ultimate good will people define happiness. Happiness required resource like health, wealth, friends, and family, because they help of virtuous people engage in virtuous action. Section 9. How does someone achieve happiness? It's acquire learning and attention. People become happy through effort, not just through fortune, which cannot be trusted to sustain happiness. They need both complete virtue and a complete life, because a life that ends miserable will not be happy. Section 10. Can someone achieve happiness during his lifetime, since fortune change? Yes. Aristotle decides if he maintains a good character and does virtue actions all his life. A true good and prudent people or persons will do the best he can regardless of his fortune. Section 11. Aristotle briefly addressed how someone's legacy can change after death. While the fortunes of a person's descendant may affect their happiness after they die, the effect will too small to cause worries. Section 12. Is the happiness praiseworthy or honorable? People are praised for their achievements, actions, and characters. Happiness is not praised, but is congratulated and admired, similarly to the why men admire the gods, since happy persons appear blessed. So happiness must be better and more godlike than other virtue and more complete. Section 13. Aristotle breaks down the two parts of the soul, rational and non-rational soul. Has two parts including a plant-like element, which is the capacity for nutrition and growth shared with every human being, and impulse, somewhat like reason that controls appetite and desire. Desire needs to yield reason, while needs to recognize design. Aristotle considered the whole human being as a thinker with goals and an animal with appetite. The Greek term for the ultimate end or purpose in talos, which someone is designed to do, or the way they are designed to live. Talos is not the same as a goal, although goals can motivate by it. Book 2 of Nicomachean Ethics is broken into 9 sections. Section 1. Analyze virtue of character. Illuminate what Aristotle means by virtue in general and why he considered virtue so important. Virtue of thought can thought dating experience in time. Virtue come from habits. The virtue of character do not come to people natural, but they can be acquired through actions in practice. Section 2. Aristotle wants his reader to read with the goals of actions, not study. The point is not to know what virtue is, but to become good. He will provide an outline, not an exact analysis. Virtues can corrupt by excess and deficiency in actions, like eating and drinking, where too much or too light damage health. Virtue like tempers and bravery are ruining by entire extreme. Fortunately, once someone has made a bit of practicing the virtue in moderate, their actions will help them achieve the states of virtue. Somehow, who allows themselves only moderate amount of pleasure, for instance, will become a temperate persons. They will find it much easier to make tempered choice. Section 3. People will take pleasure in doing the right thing as long as they are in virtuous states. A good education will teach students to find enjoyment or pain in the right thing. Virtue and vice are about pleasure and pains. Aristotle say everyone seek pleasure and avoid pains from infancy onwards. However, virtue person will choose the best actions considering pleasure and pains, and a virtue person will not. Vice and virtue are contrary and opposite states to each other. They involve choices about what to seek and what to avoid. The virtuous or good persons will choose whatever actions or goals are fine, expedite, practical, and pleasant. They will avoid whatever actions or goals are shameful, harmful, and painful. Virtue will not eliminate the feelings of pleasure and pain, as some people think, but it will make people enjoy virtue action. Section 4. What is the difference between virtue actions and virtue character? Aristotle argued that any truly virtue actions require the actor or agents to be in the right states of mind. The person has to know he or she is doing the right thing, decides to do the right thing, and act from a firm and unchanging state. Justice and temperance do not acquire merely just or temperate actions, but actions completely in the correct way. Many people do not understand this crucial point. They think they are becoming better people just for listening to philosophical arguments. Section 5. What exactly is a virtue? Since the soul has three conditions: feeling, capacity, and state. Virtue is either a feeling, a capacity, or a state. Feeling include appetites, emotions, desire, and whatever implies pleasure or pain. Section 6. The key to achieving virtue of character lies in understanding excess, deficiency, and intermediate stage. Just like in scientific study, virtue is the states of making human being good and able to perform their functions, while intermediate states are often determined based on the persons or subjects. For instance, too much food for a beginning athlete might not be enough food for an advanced athlete. Their choose virtue is a state consisting in the mean relative to us. Section 7. Aristotle lists the mean or virtue states for each aspect of character. Along with their excess and deficiency, he includes states he has no name but has observed in the human behavior. In fear and confidence, the mean in bravery, an excess of the rashness. An excess of fear is cowardliness. A person who is excessively fearless can exist, but the state of extreme fearlessness does not have name. In most pleasure and pains, the mean is temperature and excess in temperature and efficiency in pleasure. A rate states in insensibility. In small matter of money, the mean is generosity, the excess wastefulness, and the deficiency and generosity.
In large matter of money, the mean is magnificent, and an excess is ostentations or vulgarity. A deficiency is stinginess.
In the great honors and dishonors, the mean is magnanimity, the excess is vanity, and a deficiency of pusillanimity or timidity. In small honors and dishonors, that means is someone who desire honors the right way and is the right amount, and excess is honor-loving, and deficiency is indifference to honor. In anger, the means is mildness, the excess is irascibility, and in the deficiency is inirascibility. In truth-telling, the means is truthfulness, while the excess is boastfulness and the deficiency is self-depreciation. In amusement, the mean is wit, the excess buffoonery, and the deficiency the states of boorishness. In daily conversations and interactions, the mean is friendliness, the excess is integrational or flattery, and deficiency is quarrelsomeness or bad temper. Feeling like shame and indications can also have virtuous means. Indications, for example, is the proper mean between envy and spite. Section 8. Aristotle reminds the reader that each character traits how to possible vice and excess and deficiency with and virtue balance states in the middle people on the extreme ends of the spectrum. Many wants to appear more moderate than they really are and push people who are moderate to opposite extreme so they can look better. By comparisons, cowardly persons call the brave person rash, so the coward will appear reasonable. Section 9. Anyone who aims for virtue in a certain state should avoid the extreme most opposite to moderate. They should examine their own natural tendency and be wary of the vice that tempt them. In addition, people should remember and be aware that everyone is biased toward pleasure, whatever is the virtuousness and or not.
For the continuation of the discussion, allow me to introduce myself first. I am Melania Joy Cortez, and now let us proceed for Book 3. In Book 3, Aristotle lists many character virtues, and it have two examples he uses in his book, which is the courage and the temperance. Our evaluation of person's actions depends to some extent on whether those actions are voluntary, involuntary, or non-voluntary. An action is involuntary when it is performed under compulsion and causes pain to the person acting. There are borderline cases as when someone is compelled to do something dishonorable under threat, but we should generally consider such cases voluntary since the person is still in control of his or her actions. Something done in ignorance may be called involuntary if the person later recognizes the ignorance, but it is non-voluntary if the person does not recognize or suffer for such ignorance. However, ignorance can excuse only particular cases and not general behavior, since general ignorance of what is good is precisely what makes a person bad. And deliberation proceeds according to the analytical method. We consider first what end we wish to achieve and then reason backward to the means we might implement to bring about this end. Courage, according to Aristotle, is the mean between fear and confidence. In excess, it leads to fearlessness and overconfidence, both of which are bad. If deficient, it leads to cowardice, which is also bad. In choosing, those of good character will always aim for the good. However, those of who are not good character may understand things incorrectly and may wish for only the apparent good. Both virtue and vice, therefore, lie within human power because they are related to choices that we make voluntarily and deliberately. So, ang conclusion na ito ay pinatunayan ng katotohanan na ang mga gantimpala at parusa ay binibigay lamang sa mga pagkilos na inaakala nating kusang ginagawa. Ang mga tao, masama ang pag-uugali, ay bumubuo ng masasamang gawi na mahirap baguhin. Ngunit, ang kanilang kawalan ng pagpipigil sa sarili ay hindi isang dahilan para sa kanilang mga kasamaan. Temperance is the mean between pleasure and pain. In excess, it leads to wastefulness. In deficiency, it makes a man insensible. So, Aristotle examines each particular virtue, starting with courage, which he defines as the appropriate attitude toward fear. So, courage does not mean fearlessness, as there are some things such as shame or brutality towards one families, which one ought to fear. Rather, courage involves confidence in the face of fear, best exhibited on the battlefield, where men shows themselves unafraid to die on honorable death. So that is the simple meaning of courage. An excess of fearfulness constitutes the vice of cowardice, and a deficiency constitutes rashness. While temperance is what I've said, is the mean state with regard to physical pleasure, while licentiousness is the vice of excessive yearning for physical pleasure. So the grossest pleasure are those of taste, and especially touch, which are almost liable to be source of licentiousness. So, what is licentiousness? Licentious person feels not only excessive pleasure with regard to physical sensations, but also excessive pain when deprived of these pleasures. So, the vice of deficiency toward pleasure is so rare that it lacks a name, though we could perhaps call it insensitivity, because the temperate person will feel appropriate amounts of pleasure, and only toward those things that are conducive to health and fitness. So it is reliable into health of a person and in the fitness. So Aristotle seems to agree with Socrates, claim that no one knowingly does evil and that all wrongdoing is a result of ignorance. He suggests in chapter 4 of book 3 that everyone aims to do good, but bad people, so in their ignorance, aim at the apparent good that is in fact not good. So, sa madaling salita, may mga tao na akala mo mabuti, pero ang totoo is, sila naman ay may masamang ugali or may masamang gawain. So, may mga nagpapanggap na akala mo mabuti, pero ang totoo is, hindi sila mabubuting tao.
Good day everyone, my name is April Indonesia from EPED 4E, and this is the continuation of our report, and our topic is about eudaimonia, the ultimate good. So first, eudaimonia is what defines the good life. And according to Aristotle, to live in a good life is to live a happy life. So, Eudaimonia is a Greek word literally translating to the state or conditions of a good spirit, and which is commonly translated as happiness or welfare. So, in the works of Aristotle, eudaimonia was the term for the highest human good in all the Greek traditions. So, in this eudaimonia, the ultimate good, we're going to talk about the views of Aristotle on the good life. Aristotle's views on living well begins with a considerations of end and means. So, to understand what is end and means in Aristotle's view, end is about our goal or what we aim for, while means is what we employ to reach that goal, is practical thinking. So, for better understanding, let me give an example for end and means in Aristotle's view. So, for example, I want a laptop. So, the laptop is my end, which is my goal. So, to achieve your goal, you need to do something. So, sa something na yon, doon papasok si means, which is gagawan mo ng paraan. It's either mag-earn ka ng money, or manghiram ng pera, or manguha or magnakaw ng pera to get the laptop. So, the means is either bad decisions or good decisions, depend on your choice. So, if you choose your means is easier, quicker, likelier to succeed, and etc., dito papasok yung sinasabi ni means na practical thinking. So, kapag nakapag-decide ka na kung ano pipiliin mong means para sa end mo, the question is, after that, ano na ang gagawin mo? So, syempre, as a person, madami kang wants and goals in life. And that is kind of considerations na tinatanong ni Aristotle. Aristotle wonder whether there is any final or ultimate end, an end for which everything else is a means. So, to make it short, Aristotle, he wanted to know if there is an ultimate end, goal, or purpose for human life. Aristotle argued that as we mature, we act less aimlessly and more purposely. So, it means, habang tumatanda tayo, ang goal lang natin is kung ano ba yung purpose natin in life. So, as a student, ang purpose natin is makagraduate. So, nung bata pa tayo, madami tayong ini-aim sa buhay natin o marami tayong gusto. Not until nag-mature tayo na ang goal na lang natin sa buhay is yung purpose natin. We try to develop a plan for living that unites all our various purposes. So, without a plan for living, we don't know what we are trying to do or why we are trying to do it. Moreover, it is not just a plan. We need the right plan, which is one that aims at a final or ultimate end. But the question is, what is the ultimate goal of human life? The goal that we should all strive for. So, for Aristotle, the final end of human life is to flourish, to live well, and have a good life. So, the purpose and ultimate goal in life is to achieve eudaimonia. So, just like what I've said earlier, eudaimonia is, or it means happiness. So, in Aristotle's view, another questions arise. So, the question is, don't different people have a different ideas about what a good life is? So, for some, it may consist accumulating wealth, and for others, it is having a power or being famous, or experiencing pleasure. So, to answer these questions, Aristotle argues that not all desires are the same. There are acquired desires which is deeper between individuals and natural desire which are the same for everyone. Acquired desire, say, for caviar correspond to our wants, whereas natural desires, say, food, correspond to our needs. Acquired desire or wants correspond to apparent good things that are good for us whether we want it or not.
Good day everyone, I am Lea Mayzi Gardose, and to continue our discussion, Aristotle states that the goal life consists in the possession, over the course of a lifetime, of all the things that are really good for us. For this statement, sinasabi ni Aristotle na ang buhay ay binubuo ng mga bagay na nakabubuti sa atin at magiging daan upang tayo ay magkaroon ng maayos na pamumuhay. Moreover, what really good for one of the person is good for another. In other words, there is a right plan for living well. He also says that paano natin i-identify yung mga bagay na mahalaga sa atin. These possessions are reflecting to human needs. Meaning to say, so annoying needs and ng isa is corresponding to the needs of other. According to Aristotle, there are 3 real goods na kailangan natin para ma-obtain into order to live well. First, bodily goods. Ito yung mga non-tangible needs natin na may kinalaman sa ating katawan. For example, health, vitality, vigor, and pleasure. The second one is the external goods. Ito naman yung pagkain, inumin, ng mga tangible needs of a human. The last one is the goods for the soul. There are also non-tangible needs, but it feeds our souls. Example of this is knowledge, skills, love, friendship, self-esteem, and honor. Bodily goods and external goods are limited goods, while yung goods for the soul is then limited one. To make it simple, we can eat a lot, drink a lot, exercise a lot to feel healthy and control stuffs more than we need, but then since it is limited goods, nagkukos ito ng problema. Pwedeng health issues. So, pag kumain tayo ng sobra, mabubusog. At dito natin masasabi na lahat ng sobra ay nakakasama. While goods for the soul is unlimited. We can have lots of friends, learn a lot of skills, gain more knowledge, love others, and so on without inflicting self-harm. Bodily goods, external goods, and goods for the soul. When we learn how to manage them, it is the key for a good life. And Aristotle argued that the way to bridge the gap between knowledge of good life and actually living it is by developing a good moral character. Kasi kasunod ng pagkakaroon ng good moral character, pagkakaroon ng good living habits. Aristotle calls good habits virtues or excellences. Virtues of the mind are intellectual virtues, while virtues exemplified by a regular disposition to choose correctly are moral virtues. For Aristotle, wisdom is the most important intellectual virtues, but moral virtue plays a special role in living well. The reason moral virtue, the habit of making the right choices, is so important that our choices determine whether we live well. And if we make too many bad choices, we will live poorly. To make this statement simple, sinasabi ni Aristotle na upang makamtan natin ang tinatawag na the good life, kinakailangan na magkaroon tayo ng good habits or virtues. Good habits or moral virtues are the principal means to having good lives because they allow us to habitually make the choices that both constitute and lead to good lives. The most important moral virtues or habits are moderation, courage, and justice. Moderation keeps us from overindulging in pleasure or seeking too much of the limited goods. Nakakatulong ito upang maiwasan natin ang mga sobra-sobrang pagkain, inumin, dahil sabi nga lahat ng sobra ay nakakasama. Courage or lakas ng loob is having the disposition to do what it takes to live a good life. And justice is the virtue that allows us to have friends and enjoy the benefits of cooperation. However, both knowledge of the good life and good habits may not be enough because living well is not completely within our control. Why? First, some real goods like wealth or health are not completely within our power to possess. And second, we didn't create the initial condition of our birth or the environment into which we were born. Thus, moral virtue, while necessary, doesn't guarantee a good life. We also need to be fortunate or lucky. If we were wise, virtuous, and fortunate, we will have a good, meaningful lives.